All right. Welcome back to Business. So I want to pick your 2 cents, Anthony, on whether therefore it's time for us to start talking about a broader relaxation of the regulatory framework that was supposed to be pushed into the sector. Or do we say this is enough?
Good. Thank you again. And perhaps just if you allow me a second, just the question that you asked my colleague earlier on in terms of premiums. I think we haven't reached that point of, insurance is not something that is not like a trade where you come in and charge whatever you want. This is something that is whether premium or a certain premium is something that actually you need, actually your input in that. So by the time we get to a level where perhaps we say that we charge whatever it is, because remember there is a risk. It's not just where you buy something and you go. There is a risk also behind it. Whether it's there was the question the industry to do is for insurance practitioners to come up with mechanism to help our customers in terms of how can they pay, easily. For instance, instead of asking an annual cover, an annual pay and everything else, you can perhaps come up with monthly or other periodical payments. And I think that is conversation that's happening in the industry, and a lot of our customers are free to come to our offices, and we can be during times of crisis out with regulations anyhow, because you never know what shape it will take. I think for me it's very critical that we are sober at this moment and we don't try and because remember this is not something that has been created by our own system or our own economic whatever. It is a global issue. So the best thing is basically to look at what is happening globally. First of all, understand the pandemic and the cycles that it's going through and how it's going to affect the industry. So far, I think what is showing is that we are slowly getting back to normal. Obviously, the effect of this will be felt many, many years. Some of them perhaps will never recover because they are businesses that will never come back. But I think critically is to say at this point in time, perhaps any regulations can only be on a basis. So I think for issues like IFRS in terms of when they can take effect, that would be a good direction, because then you don't want to have prayers when we are in this pandemic. But it should only be for purposes of mitigating the challenges that prayers are going through, not necessarily for permanency issues. So this is not the time what is going to take. So let's be sober, let's be stable, and see how any measures. I think regulation should not be to control, should be to aid.
Yes.
Business to thrive, and especially at the time of crisis. Yeah.
Yes, Anthony, if you may, Adelaide, just 15 seconds, please, because we have realized that we are running out of time this morning. Time for us to talk about other regulatory frameworks that we should put on hold now, like the FRS accounting.
So I want to just echo my colleagues' sentiments. It's really time not to just focus on regulation, but start focusing on really analyzing the critical impact of what this pandemic has caused, go back to remodeling and go back to the reserves and ensure that everything is well harnessed within the proper premiums and not just clinging on regulation at this stage.
Pretty much. Washington, clear for us this morning in just 15 seconds. Time for us to say, hold on with the regulatory framework until we start things turning around?
I think so, yeah, because you see, there's one thing. The government is supposed actually to come in, like Anthony has said. The government is supposed to come in and chip in to the insurance sector for all the losses that we've had so far of the loading of the premiums. I mean, looking at the results from various insurance companies, you've seen what has happened. Some companies actually made some serious losses. Well, it could be management issues. But if looking at the premium income, every company has experienced a reduction in premiums. No company actually has experienced an upsurge of premiums, so to speak. So let especially regulatory issues let regulation not be exercised at this particular time, especially regulation that is more of a choking the industry. if you can have a regulation that is going to open up the industry, a regulation that is going to help in the uptake of insurance, that would make much more sense. Because as we speak right now, the insurance industry is suffering. And it's not suffering because of anything else, because of those same regulations that we're talking about here, you know?
Pretty much. Washington, Adelaide, and Anthony, thank you very much for joining us this morning on our review. Always a pleasure to have you around. All right, now moving on, Naivas Supermarket and the Waterfront Mall in Karen have signed a tenancy agreement that will see the superstore chain set up with 66 outlets at the mall. Now, the new store, which is scheduled to open in mid-October this year, will offer shoppers the food market shopping experience with a focus on daily fresh produce. Now, the store is also likely to create over 120 employment opportunities directly and twice the number on third-party partnerships. Now, speaking on the partnership, Waterfront Karen Director Dr. David Maguku said the move fits the mall's strategic objective of growth and expansion by providing its shoppers with a variety of brands. Now the question is, bigger retail chains have been wiped off the Kenyan market. What is unique about the retail space in Kenya? Now let's understand exactly what Naivas Supermarket is doing in the country. And to join us this morning, we are joined by Ms. Wambui Mbarire. She is the CEO, Retail Trade Association of Kenya. Ms. Mbarire, good morning.
Morning, Charles, and thank you for having me.
Happy to have you around. Let's get into that Naivas expansion. Why does it look unique at this time in the retail space?
The first thing I want to do is actually congratulate Metropole in having this conversation, because traditionally and in the recent past, we see that media spends a lot of time digging out the negatives in retail. We really get we rarely get positive airtime on the media, so thank you very much. I would want to say that what is unique is that this is structured organic growth. It is growth that is coming from thought, from a plan. I know the question has been, traditionally we saw that anytime any retailer grew in rapid succession, it started after Nakumatt looking like the way to a great fall. But this is definitely different. This is structured, organic, business decision in regard to opening the next branch. A lot of consideration into where do we put the next branch. A lot of consideration in regard, do we close this branch now because it's not doing well, as we open another in a place that we've identified as being a possible success location. So that is what is unique about retail, that we must move away from opening a branch for the sake of opening a branch, but actually having a conversation in regard to, will it work, will it not work, and are we brave enough to close it if it doesn't work?
Pretty much. I want to ask you about that, because that's exactly the point that we are on this morning. Yes, some have tried, some have not tried, but we're seeing this proper expansion strategy from Naivas supermarket chain. What should go behind deciding, well, we need to expand? Because the trend has been, some of them have been really trying to expand, and then bad news comes in. So what should be behind that strategy to expand, and what has Naivas been doing correctly?
I think the first thing to identify is the location. What is your target market? Does it exist in that location? Who are your competitors in the area? Are you serving the same population? Are you serving a different population? What is your stocking? Does it suit that area? Does it not suit that area? Once you set it up in X number of months, are you able to sit down and do an evaluation? Is it, as a cost center, making sense? If not, what do we need to change? And when we're changing, are we changing to stay? Are we changing to leave? So it's about having a considered discussion. It's about not looking at the competitors, but actually making business decisions for your business, because that was part of the challenge historically. We're making decisions for the competition, not for your own business. So Naivas has constantly made the decision for themselves. Hence, they're able to open successful branches. And I will tell you this for free, even as they're opening branches, they have been closing branches. because they've created a model that focuses purely on each branch being a cost center on its own. So if it covers its cost, it stays open. If it is not covering its cost and it's bringing down another branch because that branch has to support it, they close it. So it's about having those candid discussions with yourself as a business before you make the next step.
Pretty much as we clear this morning, and there seems to be this cohesiveness between Naivas and the suppliers, a factor that is not, I would say, available in the retail space in the country. What have they done? Because that seems to be the undoing for most of the retail chains in the country.
Charles, maybe I step back a bit and say the genesis of our retail was family-owned businesses. And I'd like to say this applies to the whole retail chain. And the retail chain has ourselves and the suppliers. So both ourselves as retailers are family-owned traditionally, and our suppliers are traditionally owned. So relationships are what governed the business. So I know you, you know me, send me a 12-wheeler truck full of product X. We didn't have structures, we didn't have systems, we didn't have supply agreements, which is very key. So when we come to the discussion of you now owe me, really I owe you based on what? Who says I needed to pay you in 30 days? Where is it written? So Naivas has gone beyond that. So we have supply agreement, and even better, they are putting in place and have been doing this for the last 3 years, what we call joint business plans. Joint business plans means you and I as suppliers are partners. How are we going to move your product once it's on the shelf? What will you do? What will I do? So that once we sell a product, your money is due, because we all know you've sold the product. But we had situations where there was no agreement, 1, 2. Suppliers had an attitude of, once I give you the product, I walk away, come back 30 days later, give me my money. He's done nothing towards moving that product. So by creating the partnership through the joint business plans with the suppliers, Naivas is able to walk the talk with the supplier to make the product move and to ensure then that your cash flows are good and you're able to pay when you should be paying.
Fantastic. Ms. Marire, unfortunately, that's all the time that we had for you this morning. Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. We were speaking to the CEO of Retail Traders Association of Kenya, Ms. Marire, this morning. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking to you. And that's exactly how we come to the end of our review this morning. We take a short break. Once we come back, we continue with the rest of our conversations this morning.